Good morning, Andrews University. I don't know how many of you are familiar with Dean Keith Mattingly. He's the Dean of the College of Arts and Sciences. Has anybody here ever taken a class from Dr. Mattingly? Keith Mattingly. Anybody? Just a few people. Dr. Keith Mattingly has a really interesting way that he welcomes everyone. I took several classes from him. And this is how he begins every single class. So every time Dr. Keith Mattingly begins a class, he begins by saying this: regardless of what it looks like outside, he says the following: welcome to another beautiful day in Southwest Michigan. Isn't it a beautiful day in Southwest Michigan today? Let's give it a hand for the weather today. Thank you. It is a beautiful day in Southwest Michigan. At the end of the year, I'll explain to you why that's so important. Some of you who have been here before know this time as Thursday chapels. That is no longer true. We are calling this week, and for those of you who collected your handbooks last week, you'll notice as you're flipping through that there's no reference there to Thursday chapels. In fact, this is now called Thursday Series. This morning, we're going to help you to understand what we mean by Thursday Series. We hope to reset your expectations as to what will happen during this time. But it indeed will be a very different time and a different type of experience than you have been used to. Freshmen, you're very lucky. You have nothing to compare it to, which is great, because now you get to enjoy it with fresh eyes because you're freshmen. So, this is how we will begin. This is now the time to introduce to you campus life.
Good morning, everyone. Thank you for joining us. I'm your host, Lucero Castellanos, and this is your co-host,
Kimberly Adame.
Welcome to The Campus Life.
Show. Today on our show, we'll be interviewing Jeffrey Emile, who is this year's AUSA web developer. Welcome, Jeffrey.
It's so nice to have you here, Jeffrey. Thank you for joining us. We hear you've completely recreated the AUSA webpage. What are some of the new website's features?
You feel me?
Oh, wow.
Excuse me, what?
Lucero, I think what Jeffrey said is that the AUSA website, there are going to be cool new features where students can put their ideas in for campus and look at volunteer experience, and there's even a cool new blog.
Oh, those are some pretty cool new features. So what are you most excited about?
All the ways gonna work out. I'm gonna go like that. You feel me?
What? No, I don't feel you.
Oh, wow, we're gonna have regular surveys?
You understand
Oh, that
him?
is so awesome. I'll make sure to fill one out. Wow.
Okay, well, thank you so much for joining us, Jeffrey. It was really nice having you.
Oh, that Jeffrey.
There's been quite a buzz on campus lately because of the upcoming AUSA Senate elections, as everyone is trying to win a seat in this notoriously well-blazered, prestigious electoral body. We have a lot of great candidates this year, and today we've invited two of those candidates to join us right here in the studio. Please join me in welcoming our first candidate running for Meyer 4th North, Alex Gaitan. Thank you for joining us. We are so pleased to have you here.
Oh, it's such an honor for me to be here with you young, lovely ladies.
Oh.
Stop.
So, Alex, you're running for Meyer 4th North. Why do you think you'd be a great AUSA senator?
Well, first things first, seeing that I'm a part-time model, You know, I quite literally will be a good face in the Senate.
Great hair.
And what is one policy you wish to enforce in Senate this school year?
Well, one policy I really want to enforce in Senate this year and for the student body is a no-gun policy. Except for these.
Oh, wow. All right. Woo. I think it's time for our next guest. Thank you for joining us, Alex.
Oh, no, thank you for having me.
Oh.
The next candidate running for Lamson Sub-Basement Southeast is Simone Withers.
Hey.
Hi, thank you for joining us, Simone.
Oh, I'm not Simone. She couldn't be here. She was like saving kittens from a fire or something like that.
Oh, yeah, she's
So
a very busy
I'm
lady.
accepting this
Impressive.
tiara on her behalf. And, yeah.
It's a great look for you.
When it comes to what I can bring to the table, I can't cook, so not much.
Okay.
So yeah, I'm just gonna go now. You guys carry on.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. Our next guest on the show will be the woman behind it all, the Executive Vice President. As Executive Vice President, she serves as the President of the AUSA Senate, welcoming and joining Afia Asamoah.
Afia, we've heard a lot of candidates today, but we want to hear from you. What exactly is Senate, and why should we care about it?
What is Senate? I'd like to compare Senate to the United States Congress. Basically, there are these representatives who represent their constituents from different districts, and these districts just so happen to be the residence halls. So like Lamson, Meyer, University Towers, and the community. Any more questions?
When are elections?
When are elections? Oh, good one. Elections are September 15th to 17th, and you will vote for the candidate running from your own district.
Oh, so what is the vision for Senate this year?
My vision for Senate is to see candidates who are committed to their districts, listen to their constituents' concerns, and hopefully bring some of the plans into fruition.
Oh, Afia, I'm so sorry to cut you off, but this just in.
Breaking news, we just got word that Cody Wales is also running for Senate.
In fact, he's been running for the past 3 hours. Run, Cody, run.
Oh, running.
Yay, Cody.
Woo!
All right.
Well, have a nice day.
Thank you for your time. Thank you for joining us. I'm Lucero,
And I'm Kim.
and this has been the Campus Life Show.
We hope you join Cody in.
Thank you very much, Lucero and Kim. I am Livy Knott. I'm the Student Association President this year. Welcome again to the Thursday series. So whether or not you're just plain awesome, have saved kittens, or are just really dedicated to running, we would love to have you run for Senate. You can do that. You can apply by going to weareausa.org/Senate. And also this week in the Student Center, there will be, actually today in the Student Center, Afia will be there. A lot of us AUSA officers will be there. You can ask about running for Senate. If you are interested in being involved in student life, but you think that maybe Senate is not your thing, we have two other options that I'm going to tell you about super quickly. First one, weareausa.org/volunteer is a place where you can find a survey to kind of figure out any other ways that you could get involved in campus life. Second of all, this Friday after and surrounding University Vespers, right out here on the steps behind PMC, there will be what we call the Serve Expo. And that's where you can find out about some ministries that you can get involved in here. Andrews is notorious for this, for having a lot of opportunities that you can get involved in. And you know, some of you who were here last year, that something that's important to me is us. And I'm just so proud to be at a university that is not just the university. It's us. It's the people that make it up. Joshua Kendall Martin, a U Films director, has made a short video for us about the new students that came just this year for the 2014-15 school year.
And so, my fellow Americans, ask not what your country can do for you, ask what you can do for your country. My fellow citizens of the world, ask not what America will do for you, but what together we can do for the freedom of man.
That's deep.
I plan to bring
I plan to bring two things: hard work and determination.
A big smile.
I like bringing smiles to people.
Well, I'm really diligent worker.
A good work ethic.
I can be a positive spirit around the campus.
Some positivity, humor, and all around good vibes.
School spirit and energy and
bring my enthusiasm to this campus.
to bring my prayers to this campus.
It's my optimism, because people don't really have a positive look in things nowadays, and I feel like everybody needs that nowadays, and I'm here for a listening ear. If you want to rant out, look for me.
If you ever need someone to talk to, I know how it feels to be homesick, because 2,000 plus miles is really far.
Standing by my principles. I feel like we're all called to be ambassadors for Christ. And wherever we go, whether I'm in Canada, whether I'm here, I'm called to represent Christ and the kingdom norms that He's called me to stand by.
This is all I have. Whatever God has given me, whether it's my awkward jokes or my height or welcoming spirit, that's all I have. That's it. So to make this a better school year, I'm bringing my best decisions and the influence, hopefully, of God to bring others closer to Him too.
Hi, everyone. So, who can tell me what the Andrews motto is? I'll give you a hint. It's not in English. Yeah. Corpus mens spiritus. It's on our logo. And it means body, mind, spirit. The holistic approach makes sense to us. It's a classically Adventist idea, right? What many people don't know, what in fact I didn't know until recently, however, is that Adventist education wasn't always that way. In fact, Adventist education wasn't always particularly Adventist. In the 1870s, Adventist leaders realized that there was a need within the church for schools. The first Adventist institution of higher learning, Battle Creek College, was founded in 1874, and eventually it became the school that we are at today. Over the next 18 years, preparatory and collegiate schools were founded across the country at Walla Walla, PUC, Union College, Southwestern, and Atlantic Union College's current sites. But there was something strange about these schools. They didn't have any Bible classes. At the time, there was only one kind of education that people knew how to do, and that meant classics. And by classics, I don't mean like Pride and Prejudice and the works of Charles Dickens. Classics meant that students learned Latin and Greek, and they translated and studied myths, epics, and ancient philosophy. They'd be reading Plato and the Iliad, but they wouldn't have any Bible classes. For whether you were at Harvard or at Battle Creek, you would be getting basically the same education. An Adventist school wasn't a school that taught Adventism. It was simply a regular school full of Adventists. Ellen White and many other early supporters of Adventist education decided that something had to be done. Seventh-day Adventists, people who based their faith entirely upon knowing the Bible well, weren't learning it at school at all. So in 1891, more than 100 delegates met at Harbor Springs, Michigan for an almost 6-week conference, which seems so long to me, but they had so much to talk about, and they discussed the future of Adventist education. There, Ellen White gave 6 presentations that historian George Knight describes as a declaration of all-out war on the traditional secondary and collegiate curriculum. When they left the meetings, they had a new concept in mind, an education where love for Jesus and a relationship with him would infuse every aspect of the curriculum. While this idea would take time to implement, the church leaders now had a new vision for Adventist education, one in which the purpose of education was to learn about Jesus and prepare people to do his work. Today, the Adventist school system is the second largest religious school system in the world, and every year, thousands of people are prepared to work for God. Looking back on these pivotal meetings in 1891, we can see them as a warning, a model, and a promise. Harbor Springs reminds us that our message of educating the whole person, mind, body, and spirit, is rooted in the early days of the church. It also warns us, however, how easy it is to forget that. As students and educators, we have specific divine guidance, and we have everything to gain by paying attention to that. Thank you.
It's probably hard to imagine that Adventist education could be considered a progressive movement. Particularly for those of you who've grown up in Adventist education your entire life, you're wondering, really, it seems quite traditional. But infused in Adventist education is this idea of mens spiritus corpus. It's a powerful concept that we would feed the whole person. Just this last spring, I was with a friend. We were car shopping in Chicago. We were at a Volkswagen dealership, and I was talking to the owner of this dealership, and he asked us, what is it that we do? I happened to be with Chaplain Tim Nixon that day, and we said, well, we're chaplains at Andrews University. He's like, oh, chaplains. Really? Well, I own 5 car dealerships, and about a year and a half ago, I hired a part-time chaplain. And we're like, what do you mean you hired a part-time chaplain? He's like, yeah, I felt like my employees would come in distressed, and I thought it could probably be helpful to have someone here just to check in on them. He says when the chaplain first arrived, he would pop in, hang out at that particular dealership for just a few hours, and then head out. He realized, though, not too long after that chaplain arrived, that people have serious spiritual needs. And he now has that chaplain employed full-time, visiting all the different car dealerships. And all he does is go in, checks in with the employees, see how their stories are going, see how their spiritual needs are going, and just say, how are you doing? So it's even interesting as I hear and talk to people in other environments, even outside of the educational institution, to start to be concerned with the whole person. That's what the Thursday series is all about. It's about supporting this idea of mens spiritus corpus. So do me a favor, look around the space that you're in right now. Do you see a bed? Anyone? No. Do you see a buffet line? Food? Do you smell anything delicious? No. Don't answer what you smell. Particularly if you're sitting with a Meyer Hall resident. Just kidding. I love you guys. I really do. Do you see a blackboard? No. But what's really interesting is that when we come here for University Vespers, we invite you to rest. We say, welcome the Sabbath together. When you come Sabbath morning, we invite you to take on spiritual nourishment through preaching, through music, and through fellowship. And we invite you here on Thursdays, we invite you to learn about your faith. So in a few moments, Dean Withers and I are going to go and we're going to share with you some of the presenters and some of the topics that we're going to be addressing. Now, here's what you can expect. You can expect to be introduced to new ideas, to new concepts, to new people, new faces. You can expect to be provoked in your thinking. You can expect to be challenged about how you've always thought about things. You can also expect that you're going to walk out sometimes out of this space and wonder, what was it exactly that this person was trying to say? What does that mean for my faith? What does that mean for my social media use? What does that mean for my art? We're not here to silver spoon feed you during this time. You're going to learn and experience new things. And I believe, like several of my colleagues, that church is a great space for learning new things. So, Dean Withers, why don't you come on up? Last week, you were here for convocation, and President Andreasen addressed this whole idea of the whole person. So that's our going theme for our Thursday series. Next slide. Ellen White presented this idea of harmonious development. Next week is Week of Prayer. You're going to receive an email tomorrow from IMC that's going to talk to you about the Week of Prayer schedule. All of the classes in your morning will have a slightly different schedule. We're going to have Carl Hafner here talking with us in the morning and in the evening. In the morning, 11:30, Monday through Friday, and in the evenings at 7:30 in the youth chapel. So we invite you to come for Week of Prayer next week. The first series that we're going to be addressing, we're going to be looking at this idea of mind, body, and spirit. It's our faculty series. And they're going to be angling different ways that faith interacts with your mind, body, and spirit. After them, Dean Withers, why don't you tell us about the next series after that?
After that, we're going to be going to what we're going to call our Wisdom for Life series. And we're going to be starting with Christy Wright, who is from the Dave Ramsey group. And she was here actually with us last year. She actually came on a November day, the first big snowfall of the year. And she's going to be talking to us about how we can incorporate our financial wisdom into our life and making that work every day. So that Wisdom for Life is going to start out with Christy Wright. We're going to continue with, in October, a health and wellness speaker that we're going to be bringing in, who are still working on that. And we're going to move to October 23 when we have a guy called Corey Cicchetti, and he's going to actually be talking to us about ethics. There's a lot of talk out there about how students are handling our ethics in the classroom, and so we're going to talk about what that means to us practically, how we can live an authentic, ethical, truthful life. And Corey, who is actually an author of a book called Chasing an Authentic Life, is going to come and talk to us.
November is a really exciting time because Thursday series and University Vespers is working with Andrews University Student Association, some of whom you've met this morning. Adrian has lined up a series of student speakers that will be sharing Thursday morning and Friday evening of that entire month. And in fact, we're working with several other clubs to launch those experiences and tie off that experience in a very inclusive and diverse way. So you can look forward just hearing some of your own students, colleagues, peers sharing with us through the month of November.
And then we'll wrap up December with a Christmas celebration, our Christmas season. So we'll have a wonderful Christmas program here on Thursday, December 4, where we will be thanking God for the end of a semester and the blessings of the holiday season.
And then that's Christmas break.
And it's Christmas break. And
anybody counting down Christmas break already? Amen. Amen. All right, so we come back in January, and what do we have in store?
We're going to start out January with our Martin Luther King celebration. We're bringing in a guest speaker, Only Love Alston, who actually has done a lot of work on the Sabbath rest, who's not a Seventh-day Adventist, but talks about Sabbath rest, the peace movement that Dr. Martin Luther King has started, and how that all works together to bring our community, to bring relief to our oppressed community. So she'll be talking to us on January 15.
And then right after that, we're going to start our chaplain series, and I'm going to ask for the slide of, there you go.
Look at that.
Y'all, do you guys know who that is? That is our lead chaplain, June Price. Let's give her a hand. She's sitting right here in the front row. At the moment, she's the latest and greatest member of the campus ministries team, and I would say of all of student life department. Thank you, June, for being with us. And in a month, you'll get introduced to Michael Polite. Some of you met him at New Life this last Sabbath. Anybody was there? Amen? Amen. So we're excited to have, I'm particularly excited to have a complete team very soon at Campus Ministries. So it'll be a lot of fun. We'll do a chaplain series that month, and that'll be really exciting. And then we have another series following that.
We're going to kick off our Faith and Culture series with a series of four speakers that are going to come and talk to us. The first one will be our own Dwayne McBride, who's going to be talking to us about research in current drug use. He's going to be talking to us about marijuana usage. As you know, it's being legalized all across the country. What does that mean for us as Seventh-day Adventist Christians? What does marijuana do to the body, and what's the latest research and what's happening across the country? Then in February, on the 26th, we're bringing in Soon Chan Ra, who's talking us about how to have cultural intelligence, how our church can work effectively with the community at large. I'm also excited on March 5, Andrew Doan is coming to talk to us. He has done extensive research on video gaming and the mind. He, in fact, was addicted to video games. He's an MD, and he's going to talk to us about the latest research on what video games does to the mind. And then we wrap up on March 12, our Faith and Culture series with Timothy Kasser talking to us about consumerism and how our consumerism impacts and affects the environment.
And just before we have our closing series, and at the conclusion of that, guess what time of year that is? Spring break. How many of you are looking forward to spring break already? Man, you guys are all about the vacation times. In a couple of weeks, in a few weeks, we're going to have a special presentation from Pastor Rodley. He's going to announce to us a special spring break opportunity, and you're not going to want to miss it. Some of you are going to feel called to that experience, to experience spring break in a different way, and we're excited about that. After we come back from spring break, we're asking this question: what does it mean to be called to ministry? What does it mean to be called to your career? So how many of you here are actually theology and religion majors? All right, how many of you are not theology or religion majors? Okay, what has God called you to? Have you ever wondered? You may be pursuing a degree to be a doctor. You may be going into neuroscience. You may be going into programming, web design, photography. We're suggesting to you that regardless of what you are going to for a profession, God is calling you to do something. So we're going to have 4 speakers that each have a unique job. We have a district attorney from New York City that's going to be here. We have a drama and playwright that's going to be coming here. I'm going to ask that we put up Devon Franklin on the screen. Some of you may know him. Devon works in the movie industry. He is one of the producers at Columbia Pictures. He just started his new company as well. All these folks are going to be talking to us about what it means to be a Seventh-day Adventist in non-traditional ministry context, which, as you all demonstrated, most of you will be in non-traditional ministry context. God is calling you to make a difference wherever it is that you are. How many of you remember the story of Joseph? Do you remember the story of Joseph? Do you remember the story of Daniel? Here are some major Bible heroes. They weren't priests. They weren't prophets. They weren't teachers. They weren't ministers. But they had an amazing impact in God's movement. In fact, Daniel is one of our most celebrated Bible heroes in Adventism. Yet he was third in the kingdom. Third in a very secular and pagan kingdom. Could you imagine the influence that he had for God in that moment? So that's how we're going to be concluding our series this year.
And all of that information is in your student planner. If you don't have one of these, you can stop by the Student Life office. But all of the information on all of our speakers and why we do what we do is here in this planner, so you can see who's coming up on our Thursday series.
Thank you so much, Dean Withers. At this time, let's give her a hand. So Thursday series is going to be looking at Mens Corpus Spiritus. I'm going to invite Dave Ferguson to come up. He's the director of the undergraduate leadership program, and he's going to talk to you about different ways that we can learn.
Thank you. Good morning, Andrews University. How are you doing? You feeling strong? It just turned afternoon, apparently, so that's good. Every once in a while, I'll run into a student or two, sometimes even faculty or staff, that communicate in ways that suggest that students are here just to get a degree, just to graduate with a degree. It's the time in class, it's the academics, that's it. And so why bother me with things like, is it just up here that's ringing, or is it out there too? Because it feels spooky, oddly. Anyway, why even go to these things? Why be required to do these kinds of events like Thursday chapels and Tuesday choices and all kinds of different things? I hope as you are finding out more and more about what is offered here at Andrews University, or if you're a student who has been here, that you are embracing the understanding and the idea that there's a lot more to life, there's a lot more actually even to getting a job than just classes. It is the whole experience that will end up mattering to you. It's very interesting to me. As we take a look at how you get jobs, you need a degree almost always of a specific sort to get in the door, to have the conversation with a person who would hire you, or the opportunity where you would be able to be employed. But once you're in the door along with, maybe not at the same time, but along with a bunch of other people who are applying for that exact same job, especially now in this competitive world. And they have the same thing you do, that degree. And so the person behind the desk or on the other side of the room who is interviewing you wants to know what's different about you. Some of you have heard me talk about this. Andrews University is a perfect kind of place to equip yourself with the things that will set you apart as that unique person they ought to hire. You might be interested in knowing, and I've certainly shared this with a wide number of freshmen this year, you might be interested in knowing when somebody reads a resume, what they're interested in seeing on it that might give you the opportunity to be employed by that organization or that person. Because first of all, to get in the room, you had to have a degree of a certain sort, so that now just makes you average. Everybody who got in the room had that. So what else are they looking for? There are 4 things that show up, 4 top things that you should have on your resume somewhere, be able to talk about if you're hoping to set yourself apart. Interesting to know what those 4 things are. Let me tell you those 4 things. 4th on the list, we'll go backwards. 4th on the list, foreign language or foreign travel. Boy, is Andrews University set up to help you be equipped to have something to say about that. Take advantage of short-term mission trips. Take advantage of spring tours. Take advantage of May Express foreign travel and courses that you can take while abroad or a whole year abroad. Take advantage of that and start thinking now about how you're going to incorporate that in your resume. It tells people that you see the world with open eyes, ready to adventure, that you are a person capable of dealing with people and interacting well with people who are not just the same as you. In this world that is shrinking because of technology and our capacity to serve others all the way around the world. That's number 4. Number 3 on the list, people look for athletic involvement. Athletic involvement. Wide range of reasons why that might be so. Number 1, if it shows that you can take coaching and can learn from others that would critique you, which a lot of people in athletics do. That's a big deal. That you'd be able to work with teams, that you have discipline. This speaks to that. The second on the list is volunteerism. And you should know that people who are looking at resumes do not mean things like if Andrews would have a day that everybody goes out and serves the community. Now that's a school event. That doesn't really quite count. Long-term or short-term missions do. Being a student missionary, that's a big deal on a resume. But going and tutoring in Benton Harbor or some group here at the public high school, especially those things that would demonstrate, hey, I care about this, just me on my own. And if it is a semester long or more, that especially stands out. And then number 1 on the list, This one's very interesting. Of course, you're not going to be surprised that I'd be up here interested, happy to share it. Anything that involves or has in it the word leadership. It's true. It is the number one eye-catching element. Often the person reading your resume won't even know what you're referring to if you say AUSA, or if you know, right? You're going to have to explain it, but they're going to want to know, because the world around us is hungry for people who don't just know stuff, but can interact with people in winsome, important, life-changing ways. Are you that kind of person? Just because you graduated knowing all kinds of stuff about chemistry or music, photography, accounting, doesn't mean they feel safe with you as an employee. And in fact, most are wondering, if I know you're a college graduate, I understand there are a couple of things about you. Number one, you know some things. Maybe not the things I need you to know, but you know some things. Number two, you've demonstrated that you can learn some things. So that's hopeful, because I do think I'll need to teach you quite a lot, but you've demonstrated you can learn. But the third thing that the world at large out there is kind of thinking about you is, I still don't think you're probably hireable, because you might alienate my customer base. You might cause everybody else who works here to want to come here less than they do now. Are you safe to have as a part of my team, my organization, my company, my church? And how do you demonstrate that? Through things that go beyond the classroom. You know, one of the things that I've learned in research is one of the predictors of success in college is that you have had, during your time at a college, you have had a close relationship with at least one faculty or staff member. A close relationship. I had a number of close relationships with faculty and staff members. One was a woman who then retired. Her name was Hedwig Jemison. I don't know if you've ever heard of such a woman. She was an elderly, happy, apple-faced woman at the time that I was engaged in her life. She would invite me over, and it would be kind of this exchange thing that would happen. I would pull leaves out of her gutters. She would feed me. She lost on that trade routinely. But it was wonderful to have some place off campus to be invited to go. When I was married and then back at graduate school here in the seminary, my wife and I were invited one Sabbath along with another couple over to her house. She was a simple cook, but it was delicious, always. There's this period of time, somewhere between, November 20 and January 1, where during that time I happened to like pumpkin pie. Other times of year, I don't think that you could talk me into eating it. But that time of year, pumpkin pie, the smell of it, the festive nature of the holidays, I don't know what it is, but she had made, for this particular Sabbath lunch, she had made this beautiful pumpkin pie, and after everything else had been kind of dealt with by the four of us ravenous college students, she brought out this pumpkin pie and began to carve it up and put some on plates and set one piece before me, which I was quite happy. It was one of the larger ones. She said, hey, I got to get something from the kitchen, so she got up and she went to the kitchen while the rest of us had our pieces of pie, and then she called back, hey, go ahead, get started. So I grabbed my fork and the others too and cut off that little wedge corner piece there, the front piece there, and put it in my mouth and began to chew. And as I began to chew, I began to look around, and everybody's chewing was slowing down. And there were looks of kind of puzzlement and concern, maybe even a hint of horror. And I tell you what, there was something wrong with the pumpkin pie. It was awful. I didn't know what we were going to do. I couldn't get it to go down my throat. It was getting larger. And kind of more, I don't know, it was bad. I could ruin things for you for the rest of the day by my descriptions if I'm not careful. I finally choked this down and looked around, and by then we could all talk, and there were whispers. What was wrong with that? That's awful. And she's kind of like every once in a while throwing a comment in, and she's on her way back, and we're kind of now like just pushing the pie around the plate. And she's got one big piece sitting there where she's going to sit. She comes back, sits down, and we're all kind of like, I don't know if this is like some new phase of veganism that I don't even know about, or what is happening here, but let me just watch and see if she thinks it's normal. She put the piece of pie in her mouth and began to chew it. One of the things I loved about Mrs. Jefferson was her laugh. And she barely got this piece of pie, this little bite down, and she tipped her head back and just began laughing while trying to spit out the words, "I forgot to put the sugar in it." Well, we were all friends and having a good time, so she brought out this thing of sugar. We took our forks and started stabbing holes in the pie, and then we were planting the sugar into the pie. Let me just tell you, you can put twice the amount of sugar that should go in a piece of pumpkin pie around in the pie. You can roll it in the sugar. There is nothing you can do to make that pie better or edible, period. Just giving you an idea for free, something to do to mom and dad to really mess with them. But anyway. Putting sugar in the pie at the right time is not rocket science. But it's really important. And timing matters. Don't wait till you're sitting in front of someone wondering who you are and whether I should allow you on my team to suddenly discover that GPA isn't enough. This would be great with some sugar in it. Andrews University invites you to steer straight into the massive traffic of all that you can do here. To be the person God's calling you to be with all the experiences you can wrap your life around. We are so delighted you are here and that you're having a great day. Thanks.